Hello, Archie Dunlop here with Talking Astrology with Archie on Thursday, November the 2nd, 2023. Today I want to talk about Elon Musk. I have looked at his chart before, some months ago, but I didn't have his time of birth. Now, in the interim, I believe a biography has come out of him, and in the biography we do get a time which is 7:30 a.m. So Elon Musk was born at 7:30 a.m. on June the 28th, 1971 in Pretoria. So yeah, I'm going to look at his chart. I mean, I did check to see if there's any news about him recently. Apparently, the valuation of his company X, I mean, it's now called X, I think it used to be called Twitter, has sort of halved compared to what it was when he bought it. So Elon Musk may be an extremely rich man. He may be one of the richest men in the world, but he is not quite as rich as he used to be. Still, when looking at his horoscope, we are asking the question, why is he so successful? Why is he so rich? Can we actually see this in the chart? And did he actually do anything to help himself become rich? When I say do something, I mean like, was it important, for example, that he moved to California at one stage in his life? How would this impact his prospects? And of course, I'm thinking of it in terms of astrology and a technique of astrocartography. But before I look at Elon Musk's horoscope, I want to look at the astrology for today, which is Thursday, November the 2nd, 2023. So here is the chart for today. As always, set for New York at noon today, November the 2nd, 2023. So we now see that the moon is in Cancer. It used to be in Gemini. Now it's firmly in Cancer. The moon rules Cancer. So all things being equal, it is extremely well placed in Cancer. Furthermore, we can see that the moon is making a trine aspect to the sun in Scorpio. Again, this is really good. In astrology, the two most important bodies are the sun and the moon. If these two bodies are in trine aspect, 120-degree aspect, this is considered to be fortunate. These two bodies, which really we can't live without, are well aspected. If you like, these sort of masculine and feminine principles and positive and negative principles are balanced. They're in harmony, and this is fortunate and it is life-giving. When the sun and the moon are in good aspect in a horoscope, this is in general good for one's health and good for one's longevity. All things being equal, that is. Furthermore, the moon is sextile Jupiter. So there's the moon at 9 Cancer at noon, and it's sextile Jupiter at 10:35 Taurus. So that means that the moon and Jupiter are in mutual reception. In other words, the moon is in Cancer, which is Jupiter's exaltation. Jupiter's exalted in Cancer, and Jupiter is in Taurus, and the moon is exalted in Taurus. So that suggests a really good day. Now, that doesn't mean to say that Moon Jupiter mutual reception and exaltation is always a good thing. So just under a month ago, when Hamas invaded southern Israel and killed all those people, at that time there was also a Moon-Jupiter mutual reception by exaltation. And at the time I sort of pondered what this might mean. I sort of thought, well, unfortunately, if you are planning something, even if it's a really unpleasant thing you're planning, and the Moon and Jupiter are in mutual reception by exaltation, in other words, you've got two planets fortunately aspected, maybe it helps, even if it's really horrible what you're planning. So what I'm saying is, just because you've got Moon, Jupiter in mutual reception by exaltation doesn't mean necessarily it's going to be a great day. But all things being equal, I think it's good news, that mutual reception, particularly as the Moon, as the Sun and Moon are making this trine aspect. So because of that, I have to say that it looks like being a good day if you've got plans. Now might be a good time to put those plans into action. If you want to do something to cement a deal, to begin a project, to start the birth of something. So, the birth of something is always important in astrology. It's that moment where something comes into being, whether it's a company, a relationship, moving into a house, whatever. Looks good. Today is certainly good. There is plenty of scope for optimism there. Now, it's not all good. There are some things going on which we should be aware of. The Sun is being aspected by the Moon, which is good. But you can see that the Sun is also starting to make a sesquiquadrate and 135-degree aspect to Neptune. So in some cases, when we apply ourselves, the Sun is about, it's about our selfhood. It's about who we are. And if it's sesquiquadrate Neptune, there might be a sense of confusion there. We might get messed up by false signals. We might get sudden delusions, thinking something is the case when it's actually a complete lie. At the same time, we must be careful what we say, because with Sun sesquiquadrate Neptune, there's a danger that we say things which are misleading. Indeed, our whole presence could be slightly confusing and slightly misleading. And while this is going on, the Sun is also starting to make an opposition aspect to Jupiter, at the same time as it's making a sesquiquadrate to Neptune. So there's a sense of exaggeration, fantasy, delusion starting to creep in here. And I think it's going to start to get worse. It's not just about today, it's about tomorrow as well. I think tomorrow it might be even stronger. So we just have to be careful. We need to be very straightforward. We really must avoid exaggeration. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do my forecasts for the 12 signs. So here we go. These are my forecasts for today, which is Thursday, November the 2nd, 2023. Aries. Even when you're nowhere, you're everywhere. Your influence is strong and it goes beyond your immediate environment. And you're perhaps helped by technology. You can go all around the world if you want without getting out of bed. And with great force, you can get people to reconsider their plans and priorities. And when I say with great force. I don't mean physical force. I'm talking about the force of your personality. Taurus, the moon in Cancer makes a fortunate sextile to Jupiter in Taurus. You know what to say, and your words can put people at their ease, and your vision and optimism can be quietly infectious. But don't take things too far. There is some danger that you get distracted and come to the wrong conclusions about an important matter. Gemini, the day isn't spectacular, but that doesn't mean that it can't be useful. You have an opportunity to address long-standing financial concerns, and you can now see things with a new pair of eyes. And many Geminis will find new ways of making money, ways which conceptually are very simple. Cancer, you're feeling better on many levels. You're at the centre of things without having to make a fuss. Indeed, it's a natural process. And as a result, you're going to be popular. So make some effort to socialise, even if it's in a low-key kind of way. You're also going to be luckier than average, which means that you need to be so placed that you can take advantage of available opportunities. Leo, you're ambitious at the moment, but perhaps you're having second thoughts, thinking that some of your plans might be unworkable and feeling that you have to get back to the drawing board. But today you might see evidence, if you look carefully, that you really are on the right track, that your doubts are just a passing phase. Virgo, don't overanalyze the situation. You'll function best when you work from the heart rather than the head, and if you get caught up in details, you'll soon run out of steam. At the same time, other people can do you a lot of good. They can show you a new way of being, so keep in touch with your friends. Libra, you're able to project your personality outwards onto the wider world. It just happens spontaneously. At the same time, you're able to engage your emotions and really understand what's going on in people's heads. This allows you to manipulate the situation to your advantage. Scorpio, recently things have been intense and you perhaps have felt that you needed a break. And today, with the moon in Cancer aspecting Jupiter, you get a chance to unwind and also to get a new perspective. You can tune into the eagle, which is the highest manifestation of your sign, soaring high rather than hiding deep. Sagittarius, in one sense, the situation isn't ideal. You're having to deal with things that don't interest you very much, and you might feel that your talents are being wasted. But if you look at the situation again, things aren't too bad. The world is sympathetic, and you'll get support and appreciation from an unexpected quarter. Capricorn, it's a good day for reviewing your various relationships and perhaps for strengthening your ties to particular people. Of course, not everyone is helpful, but with the moon making a sextile to Jupiter, there are some amazing people out there, and shared enterprises can have many sides, including business and romance. Aquarius, first, you have to find your place. It might seem that there are many places you can go to, whether in the mind or in the physical world, but actually there's only one place. You know where it is, but perhaps you don't want to admit it. Or there needs to be some clearing up before you move to the next phase. Pisces, your creativity is roaring into life. You've got the imagination and you've also got the opportunity. You can be sensitive and artistic, but also dynamic, and at the same time you'll know what people are thinking and feeling. So a great day if you're an artist or a performer. If you're not an artist or a performer, perhaps you can become one or be a performer in your own specialization. Okay, so I'm now going to move to the I Ching. So I asked the question, what is Thursday going to be like for people watching this video? And the first hexagram I threw was 53, development. This is about gradually developing something, progressing towards a set of goals. And it has to be done step by step. It's not something we can rush. So if we want something, we do have to be patient. We have to work solidly towards getting it. Now, there are two moving lines here. This moving line, bottom one, right at the bottom of the hexagram, and the third line up. So what do these moving lines mean? The first line suggests that we're not very confident about what we're doing. It's like we're stepping out into a new world, and we're just not very experienced, not very mature about it, and we're just terrified of making a mistake. And so this might indicate that we're involved in some kind of project, and we're not really not very confident about it. This project could be anything. I suppose it could be something really important, supposedly. I don't know, running a country, or it could be a project like, I don't know, you bought a piece of furniture from IKEA and you're trying to put it together and it's really hard, or something like that. So it depends on the situation. So when you think about development, just think about what you're involved in. Think about what you're trying to sort out today. What are you trying to develop? Where are you trying to develop? Remember that usually these I Ching forecasts are very short term. That's, there's one every day. So it's perhaps something you're involved with today that, you're not entirely confident. And this third line moves and the situation develops, but not in a very good way. It means that you're tempted to rush ahead. You want to sort this thing out. You're involved in something, so you're not going to stop. You're just gonna plow on. But consider the possibility that it's above your pay grade, at least in the short term. That it's just something that you're not familiar enough with it. It just doesn't come naturally. And that maybe you need to seek out some help. Maybe you just need to pause. And if you just go rushing in, you could just wreck everything. Consider that possibility. So if you bought an IKEA bookshelf and you're trying to put it together, and you just plow on, or something more complicated than a bookshelf, you might just wreck it. It's possible. That's what the I Ching is saying. So whatever you're involved in, don't plow on. Don't just plow ahead, because you could just mess it up completely. Now, this hexagram development does move, and it moves to hexagram number 42, which is increase. So this gives us a certain contrast. We had development, which is in itself quite a good hexagram, but the lines were poor, suggesting that yeah, we might be trying to develop, but we'd mess it up. But if we can take it really slowly. So if we're involved in this project, developing, just don't rush it. Don't force it. And if you can just put it on pause and just manage it, rather than plow ahead and plow on and just cause complete irreversible damage, then sooner or later the situation will change in a favorable way, because increase is actually saying that this is a point where you can actually consider taking the initiative. In other words, increase, can be about just taking something on, and making a success of it. But you do have to get your timing right, because that first hexagram, the moving lines, are suggesting a lot of problems. So you have to kind of go through all the problems without overreacting to the situation so much that you destroy everything. So if you exercise a bit of patience when dealing with whatever issue, problem, whatever you're trying to develop, exercise a bit of patience, and then in the end, if you don't mess it up, we move to increase, and then in fact you're in a situation where you can actually start to move and take on new responsibilities. And increase can also quite literally mean an increase in something like money. There may be a way to make more money. There may be to increase what you've got. So overall, the I Ching is saying it's not such a bad day, provided we are patient, provided we realize that we have a moment of weakness. We just have to get through that moment of weakness, that moment where we're not thinking straight, where we don't know what we're doing, when we could mess things up. It often happens like that. You only understand, when you're dealing with, I don't know, it happens to me, you're dealing with some kind of something mechanical or technological, and you totally destroy it. At least that's me. When I totally destroy it, I feel really bad after destroying it, because in retrospect, in that act of destroying it, I completely understand the way the whole thing works. But of course, it's too late because I've already destroyed it. So it's that kind of thing. If you destroy it, yeah, you might have learned how not to destroy it, but it's too late because you've already destroyed it. So I'm just saying, just don't go through that. Just try to theorize the destruction rather than put it into practice. And then, yeah, you can move to increase, and then you can really get to grips with the thing, and then you can end the day on I would have said, quite a fortunate note. So that's the I Ching. And now I want to look at Elon Musk's horoscope, and we now have a time of birth for him, which is 7:30 a.m. I think it's a horoscope. It's a horoscope that we should know, because whatever you think of Elon Musk, he's an important person. He makes important pronouncements. He seems to crop up everywhere. All this thing about Starlink and Ukraine, Starlink and Gaza, making pronouncements about international issues. Politicians take him seriously. So yeah, I think we should take him into account. Now, I suppose, before I talk about Elon Musk, I should make it clear that I would not have said that I have any bias. I have no particular opinions on Elon Musk. I would have said I wish him well. Sometimes he's annoying, but I'm not trying to look at his chart with the intent of tearing him down or being critical or anything like that. I just wanted to look at his chart, And yeah, in the first instance, to ask the question, why is he so successful? So here is his horoscope. In terms of elements, and I didn't need his time of birth to mention this, but he doesn't have any fire in his chart. At least he doesn't have any traditional planets in fire signs. Sure, he's got Neptune in Sagittarius, but Neptune is a generational planet, stays in a sign for well over a decade. Chiron more so. I mean, Chiron is a comet, so we're not really interested in Chiron in Aries. That doesn't count as him having any fire. So he doesn't have any planets in fire signs. So when you've got someone who doesn't have any fire, it can work in several different ways. It can be about someone who is just flat, who just doesn't have that spark. Some people are like that. I was looking at the horoscope of the British politician Keir Starmer. He's leader of the Labour Party. It looks as if he's going to be the next prime minister. He says what everyone is saying, what the pollsters are saying. I'm not saying it on the basis of astrology. And he doesn't have any traditional planets in fire signs, and you can see Keir Starmer, he's just not exciting. I mean, so there is an example of someone who's sort of got no fire in his chart. He's just the chart is flat. The personality seems flat. Yeah, he's a clever man, but very good lawyer, but it's flat. There's something flat there. Now, with Elon Musk, he's got no fire in his chart. But I would not have said he was flat. I would think he seems to be flamboyant, exciting, etc. So how do we figure that out? I would have said that it's really a question of compensation. In his case, he doesn't have any fire in his chart, but he is looking for the fire, and I think that. It may be that he's very good at finding it. So maybe it's a case that he himself is not actually an innovator, even though he's very much associated with very innovative things. He just may be attracted to where the excitement is. And that's also reflected in him as someone who is very active on social media. He sort of focuses on what is in vogue, what is fashionable, what people are talking about. Maybe they're interested in cryptocurrency, Dogecoin, whatever is exciting at the moment. He just goes through it, and perhaps he can get there early, because with someone with no fire, in his case, it's a sense of compensation. He's looking for where is the excitement. He doesn't have it in himself, but he goes and searches it out, and he finds it. Other people started off, but he always comes in a bit late to the party, but not so late as to make a fool of himself. That seems to be very often what he does. We should also remember that he's got 3 planets in water, and plus Cancer rising, because he's got Sun in Cancer, Mercury in Cancer, Jupiter in Scorpio. So with those water planets, water signs, it's about emotion, it's about feeling, it's about being able to feel, where the wind is blowing. And that's another part of being a successful entrepreneur, being able to feel what people want. So those are a few points about his elements. With this 7:30 a.m. chart, he has Mercury rising. I think that's quite clear. Mercury is a communication planet. Okay, it's in Cancer. That's not, on the surface, not the most communicative place for Mercury. Cancer is one of the mute signs. Or, in fact, all the water signs traditionally are called mute because, crabs don't make any noise. For Cancer, scorpions don't make any noise, and of course, fish, Pisces, they don't make any noise. So hence why the water signs are traditionally are sometimes described as mute. Now, clearly, he's got Mercury rising, and we don't need to worry about the sign. Mercury makes a lot of noise because it's right on the ascendant, and it's intelligent, it's insightful, and it's got a lot to say for itself, and clearly, academically, intellectually, he is a force to be reckoned with. Okay, I say academically, I mean, okay, he didn't want to be. I'm sure he could have been an academic if he'd wanted to be. If you look at his track record, but so a man who is very intelligent, and he's got Mercury rising. But is that enough? What makes that Mercury special apart from being rising? Well, I would argue what makes that Mercury special is the fact that it's in mutual reception to the moon. So Mercury is in Cancer. That is the sign ruled by the moon. The moon is in Virgo, a sign ruled by Mercury. In other words, the moon-Mercury mutual reception. And as I've said on several occasions, Moon and Mercury are the two communication planets. Mercury is kind of more intellectual communication, mental communication. Moon is more emotional communication, and they're in mutual reception. So that's very communicative. It's also about a natural intelligence. He can pronounce on lots of different things, and sometimes I suppose he might make a fool of himself, but generally he's got a natural intelligence to get to grips with something very quickly. Again, that's his moon Mercury mutual reception. And I think it also helps that his Mercury is a bit close to his Sun, so it's kind of combust, which might damage Mercury, but in a way the mutual reception may sort of arguably take Mercury away from the Sun and its bad influence. So again, a mutual reception is helping. And what house is the moon in? The moon is in the second house of money. So that I think that Mercury mutual reception with the moon in Virgo in the second house must really help in terms of helping him to have accumulated a lot of money. So what else? Now, if you are a Chiron watcher, you will note that he has his Chiron at 1342 Aries. So it's pretty much exactly square Mercury, and it's exactly square the ascendant. So I think that Chiron really needs to be taken into consideration. I think, although, if you've watched my videos, you'll know that I can be quite skeptical about Chiron. But I think in this case, I think we would need to look at Chiron and consider what Elon Musk's Chiron might actually mean. Now, there are sort of two rather contradictory views on Chiron. I mean, one view on Chiron is that it's the wounded healer, that it represents some wound that we have to sort of get over. But there's another view of Chiron that it's the maverick. I can't remember which astrologer first described it as maverick, but that's a word that's associated with Chiron. Now, to give you an illustration of how Chiron can work as a maverick, I don't know if you probably come across Aleister Crowley. So Aleister Crowley, the famous or infamous British occultist magician. He had Chiron opposition Venus in his horoscope. And I think that really does suggest that he was a maverick. As we know, Crowley was really into sort of his sex magic. He had particular views on relationships. Certainly for his time, in terms of what he was saying and writing about sexuality, he would have been completely outrageous. And so that makes sense for him to have Chiron opposition Venus, because that would make him the maverick. Someone else who had Chiron opposition Venus was the psychoanalyst Wilhelm Reich. Wilhelm Reich, I don't know, maybe you haven't heard of him. You should have heard of him. He was quite famous at the time, but he was a disciple of Sigmund Freud. But he was kind of more Freudian from Freud himself. He really emphasized the sexual aspects of psychoanalysis. And of course, Wilhelm Reich's most famous book was The Function of the Orgasm, which again was written a long time ago, and at the time it must have been quite quite outrageous, for, I don't know, that kind of book. That he had some important theories, and he has Venus opposition Chiron. So in the case of Aleister Crowley and Wilhelm Reich, you can see that Chiron is really working as a maverick. So in Elon Musk's case, so sorry about that diversion, Chiron square his Mercury. Again, I think that's the maverick. I don't want to sort of dwell on wounds here. He is able to think outside the box. He's able to say things which might be outrageous, or which go against the grain. That's Chiron. It is able to go against the grain. He's able to sort of, when his comments about Ukraine, comments about Gaza, comments about this, saying, hold on, do we really want to go down this road? And so I think that is really shown with his Chiron square Mercury and ascendant. I suppose it's also this Chiron elevated. It's almost in a sort of mid-heaven kind of position from a whole sign point of view. That Chiron is perhaps about his career and about his business, and how he's trying to I suppose disrupt and be a maverick with Tesla and SpaceX and whatever. So that might be part of it. Another planet I want to look at is Uranus. Now, as you know, I'm quite into midpoints, and I think his Uranus is important. Now, you can see that he has Uranus square the ascendant, but a bit off, 4 degrees off. It's not exactly there. So I suppose, okay, if you've got Uranus square the ascendant, in fact, he's got Chiron opposition Uranus, but if we look at Uranus in isolation, square the ascendant, okay, that is a bit disruptive, but it's not exactly there. But then if we look closer at this chart, we can see that Uranus is actually square the Sun-Mercury midpoint. It's also square the Sun ascendant midpoint. And if we look at the other side of the chart, we see that Uranus is actually square the Mars-Jupiter midpoint. It's got a very wide Mars-Jupiter square, but so Uranus is actually kind of more important than it seems. And I just want to show you Uranus on a 90-degree dial. which the sort of midpoint astrologers, Vita and the Uranian school like to use the 90-degree dial. I just want to show you the 90-degree dial. So let's, because this, I think this really sort of shows it. So that's a 90-degree dial for Elon Musk. It's kind of like an X-ray of the sort of X-ray of the horoscope. And let's just put this pointer on Uranus. So you can now start to see the symmetry of the chart. So this basically collapses the whole chart into 90 degrees. So you repeat everything at 90 degrees. So that's why, if you've got a square in a chart, it becomes a conjunction. If you've got an opposition in a chart, it becomes a conjunction. Obviously, conjunctions stay as conjunctions. And we can see that there's his Mercury ascendant conjunction. There's his Sun. And you can see that Uranus is on the midpoint. So Uranus is on the Sun-Mercury midpoint. Uranus is on the Sun ascendant midpoint. And then we go to the other side of the chart, and Uranus is on his Mars-Jupiter midpoint. So that makes Uranus actually very strong. If he's got Uranus on the Sun-Mercury midpoint, again, it's all about what he says. He can say things which disrupt. He can think thoughts that disrupt. Uranus on the Mars-Jupiter midpoint, that might be a bit excessive, really wanting to cause a splash there. So I think from a midpoint perspective, yes, I would have said that his Uranus is really strong. Now, I want to go back and consider the question of why he's so successful. Is it enough to just say, oh, well, he's got Moon Mercury in mutual reception? Okay, now the horoscope is not going to tell us everything. We're not going to be able to tell whether someone is going to be a billionaire just from their chart. But there might be other things to look at. Now, in terms of what Musk was doing with his life, as you can see, he was born in Pretoria in South Africa. But he didn't stay in South Africa. I think he went to Canada, and then he ended up in California. And I think he did. He went to. I get mixed up. There's big. Is it Stanford? I don't know. I think he went to. I think is that the. I get confused about where these universities are. Is Stanford in San Francisco? But he conducted a lot of his business from Palo Alto. I think his first big business that really gave him his breakthrough. He from Palo. So what's the big deal about Palo Alto? So what we can do is we can relocate his chart to Palo Alto. So that's his chart for Pretoria. So what if we set that chart up for Palo Alto? See, get a different chart. Planets in exactly the same position, but we notice that he has Jupiter exactly on the midheaven in Palo Alto. So if you're doing astrocartography, what you do is, if we look at Musk's astrocartography chart, you can see Okay, this is for the world. So if you're trying to work out where Musk should live, that's the world. And there's the Jupiter line. There's all of these, anywhere on that Jupiter, this is all the places which are conjunct the midheaven. As you can see, Jupiter goes through Western Canada, through Washington State, Oregon, and then it's sort of there's northern California. So you can see on the map Jupiter going through the midheaven. let me just blow that map up a bit so that we can. Let's look at just California. So there you go. You can see, I think San Francisco is there. And there's his Jupiter. There's his Jupiter conjunct the midheaven line. So you would have advised perhaps Elon Musk to move to his Jupiter midheaven line, and that's what he did. And his Jupiter midheaven line went through pretty close through San Francisco, Palo Alto. So that's another explanation of how perhaps he became successful. It helped. Of course, it's not the whole story. There's always going to be a factor to success which we cannot see from the chart, and probably a very big factor. But of course, we're looking at it from a perspective of hindsight. And another factor to consider would be, the country. The country he's decided to move to. He's decided to move to the USA. The USA has a chart, July the 4th, 1776, 5:10 p.m. So here is, this is the USA's chart in the middle. That's a USA's chart in the middle, and that's Elon Musk's chart on the outer rim. And so what we see is that his sun, his ascendant, and Mercury. So he's got his Mercury he's got Mercury at 14 for Cancer. He's got an ascendant at 1330 Cancer, and that's bang on the sun of the USA. The USA has its sun at 1319 Cancer. So his ascendant and his Mercury are conjunct the USA's sun. So he is going to feel a very strong attraction to the USA. And so if he goes to the USA, there's a good chance that he can be successful. Furthermore, his sun, Elon Musk's sun, at 353 at 553 Cancer is almost exactly conjunct the USA's Jupiter at 556 Cancer. So, Jupiter is a planet of good luck, of riches, good fortune. His sun is on America's Jupiter. So Jupiter gave him his wealth and his fortune. And so I think we can see that in the chart, and I think Elon Musk needs to be very grateful to his adopted country, because I think we can see some really powerful links between the two, between Elon Musk's chart and the USA. So what I want to do finally is to consider what is going on for Elon Musk at the moment. I haven't gone into this in great detail. This is like, I've looked at it for about 5 minutes. I've just seen that, Twitter is valued at half what he paid for it. It's not great. I've read another article about this with electric vehicles. Question marks about whether or not Tesla can really cut it. And are they the big deal that they really are really supposed to be? These kind of questions. So I thought it would be good to look at Elon Musk's chart and consider and just consider what's going on for him at the moment. Let's just put Elon Musk's, or we'll look at today's planets, and we'll just see if there's anything interesting going on. Okay, so Elon Musk's chart is in the middle. The planets right now are on the outer wheel. So a couple of things to note. Firstly, is the position of Saturn. So you will see that Elon Musk has Saturn at 1 degree 7 minutes Gemini, and its opposition Neptune at 0.49 Sagittarius. We haven't seen much of that Saturn-Neptune opposition, I don't think, with Elon Musk so far. But, Saturn-Neptune is often considered to be linked to about fear, insecurity. Neptune is about chaos, and Saturn is about trying to bring it together. Maybe he's been able to stave it off. But right now, Saturn is about to go stationary direct, really close to the square of Elon Musk's Saturn. So this Saturn square Saturn, it's one of these 7-year itch that we all go through. Saturn every 7 years, Saturn either conjuncts, squares, or oppositions our natal Saturn. So in, I don't know, off the top of my head, about 7 years' time, Elon Musk will have his second Saturn return in his late 50s. But so it's 7 years away. So there's Saturn moving towards the Saturn return, 7 years ahead, but it's now square Saturn. So Saturn square Saturn can be some kind of crisis. I mean, I don't mean crisis in a necessarily a terribly negative way, but it can be a difficult time when one is questioning what the hell one is doing. Is one really doing the right thing? And Saturn goes, in a couple of days' time, Saturn goes stationary direct, and it just stays there. Remember Stephen Arroyo's concept of the candle flame when a planet goes stationary direct. I think it's Stephen Arroyo saying it. A few of the astrology, he wrote books on. I think he wrote it in one of his books. I can't remember which one, but if you go stationary, Saturn goes stationary, it's like your finger going stationary in the middle of a candle flame. So he's feeling it. He may not be talking about it much, but I think he's having. I suspect he's having questions about a lot of what he's doing with Saturn going retro, with Saturn going stationary direct, square his Saturn. And this is not. It's not a one-day wonder. He's going to be feeling it for the next month or two, and he's been feeling it for the previous month or two. So yeah, it's something that he's having to deal with at the moment. Another thing he's having to deal with is he's potentially got Pluto problems. Now, assuming he really was born at 7:30, that would mean that his midheaven is at 28-21 Aries. So 28-21 Aries is his midheaven. That's the way he moves forward. That's his plans for the future. And you can see that Pluto is at 28-1 Capricorn. So Pluto is square his midheaven. It's also square his IC. So Pluto is a planet of transformation. I think he is possibly having significant challenges in terms of his business. Now, I'm not saying it's going to end badly, but it's challenging. I think he's going to have to change some of the ways he's doing business, whether it's SpaceX, whether it's X. Is that right? X. Twitter has become X. I got that right? Or whether or whether it's Tesla. Something seems to have to change. Something is not quite right there, and he does need to address that. Another thing to point out is that on November the 13th, there is a new moon, and this new moon is at 20 degrees 44 minutes Scorpio. And you can see Elon Musk has his Mars at 20 degrees 54 Aquarius. So this new moon is exactly square his it's exactly square his Mars. Something about the way he asserts himself. It might be, it might be quite dangerous, particularly as if you're into hypothetical planets. If I throw in some hypothetical planets, this chart's going to look horrible when I put in the hypothetical planets, but I'm just going to do it. So you can see that Elon Musk has the hypothetical planet Hades at 2036 Taurus, which is pretty exactly square his Mars at 2054 Aquarius. So Elon Musk has Mars square Hades in his natal chart. Mars Hades, as I said, Hades is a kind of the underside of life. Can, in certain cases, be involved in things one shouldn't be involved in. Putting one's energy into the wrong things. So with that new moon impacting his Mars Hades square, he needs to be careful what he gets involved in. And because Mars is associated with, can be associated with violence, I would have said probably he needs to make a special effort to look after himself, making sure his securities are all in order. I'm sure nothing's going to happen, but someone like Elon Musk is very well protected, but he needs to perhaps make a special effort and not to take any risks with his personal safety at the time of this new moon, and the next fortnight, from the 13th of November right through to ideally till the next, to be really safe, play it till the next new moon in the middle of December. So that's something that Elon Musk, I think, needs to consider. Anyway, that's Elon Musk. I thought, I did want to look at his chart again because my first reading of him a few months ago, I didn't have his time of birth. So now I'm trying to make up for that. So I've looked at his chart. I think he's a chart we need to know about. And hope you found that interesting. And I don't have any problems with Elon Musk, and I certainly wish Elon Musk all the best. Anyway, thank you for listening, and I will talk to you again tomorrow.